The Civil War has often been referred to as the war in which brother fought against brother. It's a nice literary device that provides the perfect allegory for a sectional war. It also happens to be a largely romantic notion. While there were certainly cases of families divided by the war, the truth is that there were far more instances of brothers united in one cause or the other. Such was the case for a Wisconsin family that sent 4 brothers to fight for the Union. Like many of Wisconsin's residents at the time of the Civil War, the Thompson family was a relative newcomer to the state. Stephen Thompson was from Connecticut and his wife Patience hailed from New York. Sometime before 1850, they relocated to Wisconsin. By 1850, they had 8 children, including brothers Jackson, Elisha, Alfred, and William. All 4 would serve with Wisconsin units during the war. Jackson Thompson, the eldest of the brothers, was born in 1835 in New York and was listed as a farmer when he enlisted for service with the 7th Wisconsin Light Artillery Battery in September 1861. He was captured at the Battle of Parker's Crossroads, but was later paroled and served out his time with the 7th Battery until mustering out in July of 1865. His wartime service is chronicled in 48 letters written between Jackson and his future wife, Sarah Throne. This recent collection's acquisition by the Wisconsin Veterans Museum not only provides an in-depth study of life in a Western Theater artillery battery, but also provides an intimate look into the relationship of 2 lovers separated by war and distance. Furloughs were rare, and their relationship was nurtured primarily through the mail. "Please write soon and often, for it seems a good while since I have heard from you," wrote a lovesick Sarah at Christmas in 1864. "Good night. Write soon and often, and I will do the same. Remember me as I do thee." Jackson sometimes resorted to poetry to keep his intended bride aware of his interest. "If I had wings like some little swallow, or like unto some turtle dove, I would fly to thee, the one I love." From J.T. to S.T. Thompson's letters also provide some combat action accounts, including an encounter in August 1864 in which Jackson narrowly escaped death when his camp was overwhelmed by rebels in the early morning hours. "I don't like to say I ran, but I did run, with nothing on but my drawers and shirt, and the Rebs right tight after me hollering, 'Halt, you Yankee son of a bee,' and firing at me every jump." Thompson took refuge in a ravine and survived the short skirmish, but several of his battery mates were not so lucky. "After the battle was over," he wrote, "I went looking over the field to see who of our boys was killed and wounded. We found that there had been 4 of our boys killed and 8 wounded, 1 mortally. He says he was shot after he surrendered to them. He was shot twice through the breast. He is still alive, but there is no hope of recovery." After the war, Jackson Thompson returned to Rubicon and married his beloved Sarah, and they eventually settled in Seymour, Wisconsin. He died in 1900. Alfred Thompson was born in 1840 in Pennsylvania. In 1861, he enlisted in Company I of the 6th Wisconsin Infantry Regiment of the famed Iron Brigade. Of the 4 brothers, Alfred would see the most action. Elf, as he was known by his comrades in the 6th, was wounded at Gettysburg in that ferocious assault against Mississippians in the unfinished railroad. He recovered from his wounds and later rejoined his regiment, only to be taken prisoner at the Battle of the Wilderness in 1864. Alf Thompson later died of disease in a prisoner of war camp in Charleston, South Carolina, one of the many late war victims of Southern captivity as a result of the North's abandonment of the parole system. Although there are no surviving correspondence between the two brothers, Jackson mentions in one letter to Sarah that his brother Alfred has seen many tough fights. The uncertainty must have been very difficult for Jackson, but he was aware of the dangers. And in at least one letter, he writes matter-of-factly that he has learned that Alfred was recently killed and that he lay on the field of battle for 3 days before being buried. "I do hope it will all prove to be false," he wrote. "Strange to hear that he was killed or wounded, for they are doing some hard fighting down there, and somebody is bound to be killed. It is just as apt to be him as anyone." Elijah Thompson, just 1 year younger than Alfred, was born in New York in 1839. Like his older brother Jackson, he enlisted in the 7th Light Artillery. He was also captured at Parker's Crossroads in December 1862 and later paroled. He served out the rest of his enlistment with his brother, mustering out on July 1865. William Thompson, the youngest of the brothers, was born in 1847 and enlisted in Company I, 35th Wisconsin Infantry in 1864. After the war, William married Sarah Shane. The couple would later divorce, and William would eventually settle in New Lisbon, Wisconsin. The Thompson brothers of Wisconsin served their state and country without hesitation. They made sacrifices typical of soldiers, and in Alfred's case, he made the supreme sacrifice. Like many before and after them, they never thought that they were making history. They were simply doing their duty, and like all soldiers, they wanted the war to end. "Sarah, I can't say that I'm sorry to hear that some of the Rubicon boys have enlisted," opined Jackson. "They ain't any better to go than thousands that have gone before them. Although it seems hard to strip the country so with men, but I do hope this thing will be settled between this and next spring, and that we can all return home to our peaceful firesides to greet dear friends and relatives once more."